There, Kathryn Rose, ChannelWise. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure. It was great. I've been kind of chatting back and forth for a couple of months, and forget how we got introduced. But I finally got a chance to meet you out in Vegas.
Juan Fernandez.
Juan, that's right.
Yes.
How could I forget?
Always Juan.
Yes, he is there's like super connectors and then there's Juan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, he's literally, it's funny because at that Channel Partners event, you walked in, you had kind of the reception or like the registration area, then kind of the main entrance. You walked in and then you look to the right and like there's Juan. I'm like, of course. He's like front and center at 8,000 person attended event. So yeah. Mr. Super Connector. So yeah, you and I got chatting a couple of months ago, and it's great to see your journey getting this thing launched and all the excitement that you got around it. And then, I said we finally got a chance to meet, albeit briefly, because you were probably the most sought after person at the entire event. And so the way you pulled things off was quite remarkable.
We worked really hard on that. The coaching cafe is what you're referring to, obviously, and it was a really great part of the event. We really enjoyed it, and it was really like bringing ChannelWise into live event experience, which was phenomenal for us, and all the coaches that were there and the attendees were getting a lot of great feedback from. So it was great.
Awesome. One of the other things, as we started chatting a couple of months ago, one of the things that we discovered, and we'll take a trip down your memory lane, your past in a minute. But one of the commonalities we were just talking about is you're a hockey mom, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm a hockey dad, and it feels like we spend half of our lives in ice rinks, right?
Growing up in Connecticut, I grew up in the Hartford area of Connecticut, and we don't have any professional sports team. We had the Whalers, and that was like, my friend had it still hurts me. It's really hard. I live in the Boston area now, and it's been a challenge to be a Bruins fan. I'll just be honest about it. Growing up, like no self-respecting Whalers fan was ever a Bruins fan, but when in Rome, right? And so I spent a lot of time, growing up around hockey. And then my son started playing, and you're right. I mean, you spend so much. It's a year-round sport.
Yeah. The great things about being out in Vegas, if I could say there's a great thing, because I don't know, I had enough of Vegas over the last.
I'm not a Vegas person myself. Yeah.
2 weeks, but I've been to quite a few NHL games, but and removing the fact that it was a playoff game, the atmosphere and the experience at the Vegas arena was unreal.
Really? Wow.
It was. There's like next level, and there was like so next level. It was incredible. I sat there, and I didn't have a dog in the fight. I'm kind of rooting for Edmonton because it's been a while for them. But I was sitting there, objectively looking around and saying, this is an incredible sporting venue and experience. Just everything, about it. Even like the intermission. Not to get sidetracked here, but even like the intermission, it felt like you're at like a club or something.
Of course they have to do it up in Vegas, right? But I think some of those expansion, franchises, the people are just so happy to have them that, and of course the Whalers ended up being the North Carolina Hurricanes, and they won the Stanley Cup, but I'm not still bitter. Not still bitter. But I mean, even you watch the Hurricane games, and I mean, they're just wild, about having them. So, sometimes that's what it takes,
Yeah. So I have a friend that lived in Wallingford, Connecticut, and he's
right next door where I lived. Yeah.
Yeah. He's down in Raleigh now. And he's been chomping, in my ear about going down to a Canes game, because apparently they tailgate at the Canes games, so like almost like a football game, like before every game, they actually tailgate. So yeah, I got to get down there. So as you can see, you and I could probably talk hockey for the next hour or so, but all right, we'll transition. So you have quite a background, not just in the channel, but just, I don't know, quite a cool background in general. Obviously, a lot of it is channel related, right? But let's kind of take a step back, right? So you mentioned you're from Connecticut, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what were the early days, and was there I don't know, a spark of tech, back in the day, or what were early Kathryn days like?
Well, I want to go too far back, but no, I think I don't. There really wasn't a big spark of tech, so to speak. I mean, one of my first jobs out of college, I ran marketing for a cable company, so I was a little bit in that area, but. And then I ended up working for WorldCom. I ran global accounts for them, did frame relay. Like when we would plan it out on the board in front of our customers, and we would draw the cloud, like the dotted lines to the cloud.
Yeah.
So those were, some of the early days. And I was in the AV channel for a while too. Polycom and those folks are there. And then I kind of diverted. I went into financial services. I'd always had a really very interested in like financial services and things. And I bought my first house when I was pretty young, and because I was always very motivated, I was always in sales, and so I bought my first house when I was pretty young, and I decided that I was going to help people, get their first home. And so I diverted a little bit into financial services. I was a mortgage broker. Back when it was mortgages were in the double digits, back in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. And then, when things started picking up, I switched gears a little bit. I was tapped I got my secondary mortgage certificate and my Series 6 and 7 licenses. And wow. I did a lot of work. And then I ended up on Wall Street, actually, trading mortgage-backed securities. And that was like in 2007. And it was prior to that, but 2007 is when kind of everything was a little bit crazy. I was on Wall Street, and I was pregnant with my first child about 8.5 months. And
were you doing that commute from Connecticut down to Wall Street?
I mean, so at that point I lived like closer to I lived in Connecticut, but I lived in Fairfield County, which was like, okay. The train was 59 minutes, from door to door.
You always hear about those crazy commutes from Connecticut into the city. And
they're insane. They're insane. Yeah. And I think at that time, our division, there were 44 of us, and we were the only division in the entire company that worked remotely. So I've been working remotely for a really long time, because my territory was, Connecticut and Southern Massachusetts and a little bit of New Hampshire. So I worked with the whole loan origination and correspondent lending. So I worked with a lot of banks and everything like up in that corridor. So I only had to like commute in, once in a while. So it really, really wasn't bad. But yeah, I mean, it was 59 minutes on the train. It was fine. You just fell asleep. Let's get into Grand Central. But, and then the mortgage market melted down. I'm sure you probably remember. Everyone remembers that time. And mm-hmm. I was 8.5 months pregnant, and they shut our division because they didn't know what was happening. And, like a lot of companies, they just kind of go, I mean, Lehman Brothers fell, like so many things, Yeah. And, and at the same time, my mom had a brain aneurysm that left her paraplegic. Wow. So within 3 months, I lost my job. I had a brand new baby and had to take care of my mom. And so like, that's kind of what led me back into, what I'm doing now. And it was just a really crazy time. And, it gives you a different perspective when, kind of the rug is completely pulled, from underneath your feet.
Yeah. Well, let me pop this up. You got a fan here.
There
you go.
Hey, Andrea.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, God, there's so much to dissect there. Yeah. Where'd you get this drive from? Do you have like early mentors? Do you have anybody that kind of, you picked this up from? Because I think one thing you notice is that you are, so driven, right? I mean, it's awesome, right? It's contagious. But, do you have like early kind of mentors, mentees, or, people that you kind of looked up to or got this contagion from? Or
I think for me, it was my grandmother to start. Well, my grandmother, my grandfather passed away when my mom was like 10. And so my grandmother had to raise 3 children, as a single parent back in those days. And women weren't allowed to pretty much do anything. But, she went to work in the factories during the war, like, a lot of people did. And she ended up buying a home, which was unheard of for, a woman to buy a home. And she always just was like very, very driven too. She just wanted to make a better life for her family. And then my dad, when my mom first met him, he was working on the assembly line at Pratt & Whitney Aircraft, because where I grew up was very, blue collar, like a lot of manufacturing shops and things. And then after, my brother and I were born, he decided that he wanted to do something different with his life. And so he tells the story that he decided to sell insurance. And so my mom would have to lock him in the basement so he could make his 100 cold calls.
Wow.
And that's, and then he built up his own financial services agency and everything. So like I got to see kind of firsthand, what hard work, what hard work was and what it could do. And I was the first one in my whole family to go to college. And so like, those were the kinds of things that, that they really instilled, and the work ethic for sure. Yeah.
So you saw the grind, you saw what it takes, the hours you have to put in to, to get to the number and make it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and the other thing I saw too with my grandmother and my whole family really, but they were just always so like driven in service. Like my dad, when he sold, it was funny when I would work for him during college breaks and stuff, and he would tell me, you should go into sales, and I was like, I don't want to be in sales, because that whole like persona of the slick back, used car salesman thing. But my dad was like, he's like, I wasn't never like that, and he wasn't. He was very consultative. He was like everybody's friend. And my grandmother too, like they were all, my mom too. My mom was a nurse. So, very much leading in service. So I was able to see, get that example of being driven and hitting, your goals, but also being a nice person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, I can relate to a degree, because I was raised by, single mom, and she was in real estate, and I saw the long hours, right? I saw the hours that you had to put in, and the calls, the appointments, the hustle. And so I think a lot of what I ended up being was a result of watching her, just having to make it, right? Just having to, do it. So
do it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So you went to college, and I think what's great, kind of talk about some of these themes, is that a lot of people kind of pick a lane, right? And maybe less so these days, but pick a lane and they kind of stick to it. But you went across different industries, right?
I did.
And yeah, so you're talking financial, you're in cable, and then you're in video, telephony, Polycom, what have you, and so you've seen a pretty broad. You have a pretty broad base or background, and it sounds like you have the ability to get pretty darn technical. Because if you're on one hand trying to translating technical jargon into marketing materials that people understand, and then you're also going down the path of getting your Series 6, Series 7, and having to translate complicated technical like financial information into kind of layman's terms. I mean, that's pretty challenging. I mean, most people go down one path, let alone two very divergent or technical paths, and having to translate that. So I guess I don't know, it's like glutton for punishment, or you just
I was always very curious.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I also thought like, why not? If I can do something, why not try it? And as I went to start this, I decided that, if I was going to start a platform, I needed to know enough to be dangerous. So, I speak globally at events and things. And so like on planes, there's free code camp and code academy. And I learned, I taught myself HTML and PHP and a little bit of Java, but, what I built now is like way over my head, way past my pay grade, but at least I have an idea of how it all, kind of works together.
Sure.
And it's just very, very curious. And I mean, I have kids. I have a 15-year-old and 11-year-old. And, I kind of want them to see that, that you don't stop, especially now, you can't stop learning, because everything just seems to be going at the speed of light, and you really have to just kind of keep running and catching up,
Yeah. And we're talking about starting our days early. I mean, I'm an early riser. You're equally. So it's like, you have to find those, pockets throughout the day, whether it's on a plane or just, getting up before everybody else, to kind of feed that curiosity and keep it going. So
I used to be a night owl. And then, after I had kids, it was, when my mom was in the hospital was I had to get up early to, make sure I got some stuff done before I drove, because I was in, on the border of New York and she was in Hartford Hospital. So that was a long commute every day. And then now that with the kids, it's like I get up at 4 because I get like 4 to 6:30 before I have to get, my son to school and then come back, and my daughter has to get to school. So, you just have to do, you just kind of have to do what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And why not build a platform at the same time?
Why not? Why not start a company?
Absolutely.
It's like those things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I mean, absolute inspiration. So let's kind of get into the origin of, what you're doing now, because I mean, it's, again, I'm a big fan. I think it's very unique. It's very needed in this space, but kind of take us back to like the kernel, the nugget that was like, I think there's something here. Or where'd the idea come from?
Well, I think the seed was planted at that time when everything, like I said, the rug got pulled out from underneath me, and I'm like, what do I do next? And so as a salesperson, I just called all my old customers, and I was like, because I have the same customers over the years, and I'm still friends with them to this day, a lot of them. And so, I would call them and I said, I could do sales training, marketing. And they said, well, we want our websites to come up on the first page of search engine searches, Google searches. And I was like, well, how hard could that be? Right. Well, it turns out it's pretty hard. I didn't know it was called search engine optimization. I didn't know anything about it. But I told my top client that I'd get back to him in 2 weeks. And so I went online and I started searching, and everyone wanted me to take their course or read their book, much like today, where, it's very passive learning experiences, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I knew that I wanted to just get going faster. And so I thought, I'm pretty smart. Let me see if I can find someone. And I did. I found someone on Craigslist at the time I paid for his time, and we spent some time together. And within 2 weeks, I got my first paying client. And, and I think that comes from very similar to you, where, you've started your company and you've always delivered, and, you're a good partner to folks. So when someone says to you, hey, I can do this, like you say that to your client, they believe you, right? And he's like, I'll give you a shot because I've always delivered and I've always, been good with him. And so that's what happened. And then I parlayed that into a very successful consulting business. And that's when I came back into the channel in about 2013. I came back into the channel. I was tapped to run sales for the very first through partner marketing automation platform. And we built that up. It was acquired. But through the years, I really built up this massive network of people. And I thought, how can I put that to use for folks? Because people would always contact me. Hey, can you connect me with Kevin or Andra or whoever? And I didn't mind doing it. But after a while, all you have is what's in your head. So if you're constantly on pick your brain calls, like, you know what I mean? You can't really get anything done. And so I started the first expert advice network I started was specifically targeted to small businesses and startups called ChannelWise. And it's still there. And then about a year and a half ago, I was still speaking at all the channel shows. I mean, we joke about it that, the channel's like Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can't leave, kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was still speaking at channel partners and different opportunity. CompTIA, I was on the faculty for CompTIA. And, friends of mine were like, can you build one of these for the channel? And the whole idea is that MSPs, VARs, even vendors, anytime you want to move yourself forward faster, the synchronous communication. I just want to talk to somebody. I don't want to feel like I'm by myself. I want to know best practices. And so that's why that's why I created it and we brought it to life. It just pretty much launched in March. We were in beta for a while. And then we rebuilt the platform and taking all the learnings and then we kind of had our coming out party, so to speak, at Channel Partners.
Yeah. So take us through the building of this company, right? I mean, so, you started with the ChannelWise, right? And then I guess you transitioned back into the channel. But over the last year, I mean, it sounds like you've been pretty focused on getting to this point. We're getting to this point where you're launching. I mean, what are the highlights, the lowlights of the last year of getting this thing, prepped and ready to launch?
I think that the highlights were always, working with the experts and, really just being able to help them get their profile raised in the world. Most of our experts I'm very intentional about diversity. So we have a lot of women and people of color, and diversity of thought, and all the different, sort of diversity pieces that you look at. So I'm very, very intentional about that. So I think that was, and then the people who would get the help, they would write me all the time. They write, great testimonials that this was the best thing that they really did. I think one of the challenges is when you're bootstrapped. So, as a female tech founder, it is challenging to get VC investment, although everyone makes it sound so easy, but it's not, as it's not. So but being in sales, I was never really involved in any of that, because I would just always make money, because that's what we did. I never not made money. So I think bootstrapping is challenging for sure. You're just constantly on that hamster wheel. But I think now we're at a point, the platform is amazing. I have a new tech team who has been just really, really terrific. And, I have partners like you guys at Channel Program and others that have just embraced what we're doing and been really excited about helping us. I mean, obviously anyone can come and make a call on ChannelWise, but what we really want to do is bring it to the vendors. We want the vendors and the suppliers to say, we want to change the engagement model, right? If we want to change the level of engagement, we have to change the engagement model. And that is, I'm going to give you all this great stuff in your PRM, right? But at the end of the day, it's like, you can give them all the greatest marketing materials, but if they don't have a list, or if they don't know how to, write an email or a social post, or they're uncomfortable doing those things, they're not going to share it. Yeah. So for us, we're like, hey, let us help you get get a differentiator, get more information out through your partners by helping them do more business.
Yeah. So you've got a really, to your point, diverse group of people up there as experts. I mean, get into maybe some of the topics that, I mean, it's almost feel like it's infinite, but like, what are the topics that the experts cover typically?
Well, we have obviously the biggest two are like sales and marketing. That's all, net new logos, customer acquisition, things like that, and like how to get the word out. So those are usually the sort of the top two things. We have M&A folks on there, because that's a big hot topic now on the channel. We have folks that are not necessarily in the channel, like SEO is SEO, right? Doesn't matter if you're technical or not technical, so we have SEO. We have, one of the top sales leaders in the country, Lori Richardson's good friend. And, and she's on there to help partners and vendors acquire, sales talent, like how to really make sure that your sales teams are set up properly. And, she's been in tech for a really long time, but maybe not specifically in the channel, right? So those are usually the top topics. And we have Channel Program folks in too. I mean, not obviously we do have Matt Solomon's in there as well. But we have people that will help, maybe new entrants to the channel or some other vendors figure out like, what's the best route to market through the channel, how to, prop up your channel. So we have kind of runs the gamut, but typically the most exciting topics are I took one today. Someone scheduled a call with me, an MSP out of Ohio scheduled a call with me today to talk through his sales strategy. So awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting as this market has evolved, right? I think seen this all around, right? There's been this maturity curve. I was talking at a podcast yesterday. We're talking about this concept of the maturity curve with the MSPs, and there are always going to be new entrants, but along the way, the industry is becoming more sophisticated. Yeah. And it's, I think because there were some early pioneers that started to say, look, you got to get your sales and marketing straight. So it's along the lines, right around the time the SEO came out, and just, you had to be different than everybody else, but you had to really lean into sales and marketing. But I think where you are is kind of this engagement 2, or maybe we're at 3.0 right now, right? Whereas you come in person, do this, workshop, kind of check in here and there, and there's some peer groups, and that's helpful for accountability and stuff like that. But I think, making the engagement model, changing the engagement model, making it easy, and having this broader access to experts, I think is really where the market was going. And so I almost feel like you're a couple of years out in front of the marketplace, right? With GetWise and kind of getting it off the ground and incubating that, and then now kind of transitioning into the channel. you know, and launching the way you have. And so, not fortuitous if you're, you know, kind of a clairvoyant or what have you, but it seems like you timed it pretty darn well.
Well, you know, I think it's like what you were, when we first met, we were talking about, like, you created a company that you would use, that you felt that it's something that you would wanted to see, right? And that's what I did. I said, you know, I cannot be the only one that feels alone. I'm not the only one who doesn't know how to write an email sequence. You know, I schedule calls with my experts all the time, and I pay for them, right? There's no free lunches even for me. And so but you know, I like probably a couple months ago, I was writing the email sequence, you know, or like onboarding sequence. And I just wanted someone to look at it. So I scheduled a call with one of our experts, sent him the G Drive link. And in 50 minutes, because that's the length of the calls, 50 minutes, we walked through. She gave me all the pointers, changed it, you know, made it really, really solid. And I felt really good about it. People sometimes will schedule calls with me just to walk through their sales deck because they're nervous about a sales opportunity. And maybe they don't want to let someone inside their company know that they're nervous about it. So they schedule a call, you know, with one of us. And so I think that those are the kinds of things that, and as you mentioned, like everything old is new again, right? It used to be you would call an expert, you know, phone a friend or whatever. Right. And then it became very, again, passive and asynchronous. And, you know, there's lots of Reddit communities and things. But like, you don't know who these people really are, you know, and social media can sometimes obscure the truth of someone's success, shall we say. Amen. So, you know, it's really like making sure when you're talking to someone that they're a vetted expert. And that's what we do. So you can't pay to be an expert. It's not a pay to play here. You can't apply to be an expert. You have to be invited. So we make it very, we try to keep it very exclusive, and not in an exclusionary way, but more like we want people to feel comfortable that someone that they're speaking with is truly, you know, the expert in that way.
Yeah, and they're getting the value out of what, you know, the time that they're committing and what they're paying, right? They're getting the value out of it. And you guys, you're taking that first stab at vetting them and allowing them in the platform. I think that means a lot, because it means that you're not going to come in and just get some average Joe off the street. You've got really a community of the people that have been there and done that. Exactly. That can help with guidance. It's invaluable, right? We always talk about, you know, one hand having mentors. You know, I started off by asking about mentors and, you know, who you look up to, but I think that's an important, just, you know, thing to have in general, right? Even at this level is having people you can bounce ideas off of, but then having access to experts, you know, that can help, you know, in different, you know, phases of the business as you develop, I think is pretty important. And so,
yeah. And I think one of the things that we've done that's unique with the platform too is you can actually carve out a separate network. So if you're a vendor or a community, and, you know, you can either give access to your partners or your community members access to our experts. You can even have your own experts in your private, you know, network area. We used to call them channels on the other side, but obviously we don't want to confuse it on this side. But you can have it, you know, you can have a carve out inside the platform that's specifically houses your partners, your community members, to give access to other community members for like spot mentorship, as you mentioned, or, you know, spot coaching. It could be like your CAMs and PAMs, provisioning, engineering, whatever. You know, you want to offer that to certain tiers of your program, of your partners, to get access specifically to them, so people aren't traffic copying, you know, like, who do I talk to? You know, you can kind of give them that access. So that's one of the things, you know, after all the years of working in the channel, I realized, same thing with you, that there's a gap, you know, there, especially with the market contraction and a lot of vendors having to, you know, you know, pare down their workforces. Now you end up in a situation where you don't have that traffic cop, so to speak, to point in the directions. And so now we can fill that as well. Yeah,
that's, you know, no one, I guess they haven't really come out and said, yes, we're in a recession. I guess that's the nasty word, right?
The R word, yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, you think about all of the amazing innovations that come out of downturns, right? And, you know, you were again a little bit more fortuitous and kind of, you know, early on, but I think, you know, if I was betting how this marketplace plays out and what engagement looks like, you know, downstream, I think you're going to be clearly out in front, right? Because people are looking for innovation, they're looking for better ways to engage, more cost-effective and just generally effective ways to engage. And that's, I think, where you guys are. I mean, it's what you've built, right? You've built a platform that allows people to engage more effectively, more cost effectively, and get maximum value, versus where in the past you had to, fly all over the country for a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day workshop. And then, who knows if you get benefit out of it or not. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can tell I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I don't know. I don't want to be too obvious on this, but, so you've launched, you launched last week at Channel Partners.
Yeah.
What's next for you? I mean, it's, I'm sure the next couple of months are really just about scale and quality of engagement, but what do you forecast beyond the next couple of months for the platform?
Well, you mentioned the channel partners, and I have to give them a shout out because for years we've been trying to stand up some kind of a one-on-one coaching thing, and it just never kind of really was able to. And this was prior to the folks who are running it now, and now that we have the platform, I was like, let's try to we'll get our coaches in there, and in 3 weeks. So we had 3 weeks that we stood up this coaching cafe.
Wow.
And it was such a huge hit, and I'm just so grateful for them. And I've got a lot of support. So I'm really, really, really excited about that. So, we've been actually reached out to by several conferences to bring that concept, because people think that stuff is easy. It's not, right?
Right.
Like, it is not easy. And so now we have it, kind of, perfected, so to speak. And so, folks have asked us to bring the coaching cafe to their shows and into some of the things that they're doing, which is really exciting. I think for us, the next thing is the scale piece. I mean, we want to obviously get this in front of as many vendors as possible, suppliers, to really get it in the hands of their partners, offer them a differentiator from other partner programs, that are out there, and really be able to support their partners at scale. Yeah. That's really the bottom line. And then, years ago, someone would say to me, like, how can I break out on Twitter? How can I break out on social media when I was a consultant? And I would say, just be useful, right? And that's what we really want to be. We want to be useful. We want to be helpful. We want to have an impact. And when you do all those things, and you lead in service and really work with folks and meet them where they are, like, that's when the money comes. So that's what we're really looking at over probably the next 6 months, is adding additional features. This is, with any platform, adding additional features and really just starting to, to scale it up.
That's awesome. So if I'm an MSP or IT service provider, how do I get involved in the platform?
Well, I mean, you can just go to channelwise.com, and, it says that, you're a vendor or partner. So you can see like the different value propositions that are there, but, just click on find your expert. And we have, I think we're almost 200 now on the ChannelWise side. We have 2,000 experts on the GetWise side in 26 countries, but we're starting a little bit smaller, obviously, on the channel side, and really just making sure that we have the right mix of folks. We do an Ask the Expert series, and you're going to be on it too. So that's been on it. And really just talking about, like, what are the trends, what are the challenges, and how can you as an expert, help solve them. So we're offering a little bit more content. We've had suppliers come to us and ask us to have some of our experts, do webinars and things like that. So, we're kind of, anytime that someone needs expertise that will help their community, like, we're definitely the go-to for that.
Awesome. And so on the other side, right, on the vendor side, kind of touched on it, but vendor wants to, get involved and kind of look at this as a tool, right, for their channel. How do they engage with you guys?
Well, they can, obviously they can schedule a time with me. I mean, it takes me about, 20 minutes, maybe that's even pushing it, to actually set up a new network inside the platform. We just tell them that, we want to make sure there's the communications and everything, but it takes literally no time at all to stand up the network and really get it rolling. They just have to decide how they want it, provisioned. And we're in talks, Zift and InPartner and Allbound, and you all as well. And so we have, a lot of, we're really working with the different providers out there to make sure that we're, meeting people where they are.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great to, kind of take a step back. It's just thinking about that event. Our booth was actually located right next to Zift.
Yeah.
And it's great to see what they're doing. But I think in general that the Channel Partners event, I mean, it's the first time I had participated in a while in that event. And I think they had something like 8,000 attendees.
6,000 attendees.
Yeah. I mean, it was, it was large. I was surprised at how big it had gotten. I don't know if it was that big in the past, or I think we had a team out there last year and they said it was maybe it was like a COVID rebound year or what have you, but to have 8,000 out there was pretty interesting. And it, you know, true to kind of their business, right? It ranged from kind of MSP focused to telco to, you know, bar, disty. I mean, it was pretty broad.
Yeah. I mean, they focused in the past more specifically on the telco, but, you know, convergence and all the different, you know, people are like crossing over and borders and different, you know, getting into different things, cybersecurity, especially, you know, that has kind of forced the, you know, kind of merging into different areas. And now they have that MSP summit that, you know, comes in the beginning, and then, you know, the traditional, but a lot of people stayed through the whole thing. So that was really exciting for them.
Yeah. It was interesting to see some of the folks that were out there the previous week for Kaseya that actually stayed all the way through and attended channel partners as well. You saw some really worn down faces because you know, it was pretty intense. It's the volume of traffic and just the overall activity. So well done to them.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about how MSPs can engage IT service providers and then vendors, but in general, what's the best way to engage with you? I guess out in the socials, just, you know.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You know, I've set my call rate to 0 on my own platform, so you can schedule a call with me. You know, a lot of folks are doing that, taking advantage of that time, which is great. I love doing that. And you know, I think that, you know, the idea really is to make sure that, you know, we can help people move forward faster, you know, and engaging with us is really, really simple. And I'm just really grateful that I have this incredible group of experts. I mean, as I mentioned, Matt, you know, Eric Simpson, Janice Shines, you know, all Carol Palachek, Amy Babanchik, like all these really, really, you know, incredible folks in the channel who have said, you know, we're in with you. Carrie Richardson has joined us too. So we have, you know, just a lot of real incredible people that have said, look, we love this idea. We're in with you and we want to help. So yeah,
it's the who's who of the channel for sure. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, look, this has been a great chat. Like I said, I'm a big fan of what you're doing.
Same.
I think this marketplace needs some disruption, and you're the perfect person to do that. Yeah, I'm rooting for you, and I'm looking forward to seeing this thing really, you know, really change the dynamic in this marketplace. So no pressure, but you know,
same to you. I'm seeing your disruption out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing like how everything, you know, these channel charts come out. I think it's going to be super helpful to people, you know, to really see like unbiased, you know, reviews of the new vendors the suppliers that are coming into the channel and the new products and things. And so, as you know, I'm a huge fan, and, you know, in your new, you know, your new PRM offering, I saw it when I mentioned earlier, I saw it with Matt, when I was at the show, and, you know, it's phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to continuing working with you and your team, and Caitlin's amazing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm really excited about our continued relationship.
Awesome. And real quick, one more time, the site where people can find you.
ChannelWise.com.
Yeah, pretty easy. All right, so definitely get over there and check it out. So, hey, look, thanks for hopping on, and I'm sure I'll see you on your platform on some type of speaking spot or an event in the very near term. So
terrific. Thanks, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me.
Take care.
Yep.
Bye.